Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to do a tier list on cargo ships. Now to set some context, the A tier or the S tier cargo ships don't necessarily have the most cargo capacity, although that is a direct correlation to how much money you can make in a cargo run or a delivery mission. The other issues that are considerations are how easy it is to get in and out of the ship, because some ships are brutal to get in and out of quickly. Um, Ease of use as far as flight characteristics and how maneuverable it is. Some don't maneuver that well. Um, third criteria is the fidelity of the ship. How dated is it? Right. Some ships are extremely dated and missing feature sets that have come along in the last year or so. And some of these are like 10-year-old ships now. And then the fourth criteria is how easy is it to load from like tertiary effects. So let's say now that they've introduced salvage gameplay, some of these ships are not easy to load, because before, when it was just a kiosk and you loaded the ship, it had a certain value set. But now when you were loading all this stuff manually, it changes up the game dynamic to where it changes the desirability of some of these ships. Like in a lot of ways, for example, the Caterpillar was falling out of favorability, but with the new salvage mechanic, the Caterpillar is kind of coming back into favorability because it's easy to load on the side ramps, and they kind of reworked how some of the cargo is placed inside the ship. So it's some of its relevance has come back around. So we'll start with, now I have personally owned all of these ships at one point in time and kind of cycled through them and have come back to ships, like melted it, bought something else, played it for 6 months, and like, man, I like the other one better, and then come back around. So this all comes from a level of context and playability. Some ships are very difficult to get in and out of, and you're like waiting for doors to open and close, and you're like, Jesus, please just let me out of the ship. Okay, especially when things start to go awry. So let's start off with D tier. Um, I I would have to say that the Misc uh, are going to be. We'll start them with C tier. I was trying to figure out how to. This is a new system, and I was trying to figure out how to preset these, and I couldn't get them to snap. Like, I couldn't get them to save their image size. So the Misc, we're going to say that's C tier, because although it does, the base model holds the 28 SCU. The One of the issue is that cargo bay is very narrow. And one of my pet peeves is when you open up doors and gates and they do the area, like you mouse over the entire back door and it's the area, and then it just says open. I prefer buttons, and it kind of shows with their new ship design. They've gone to buttons on all their stuff, like the Mercury Star Runner. And the older designs, it's the entire door. I just realized that I forgot to add the Valkyrie to this. Okay, so we're gonna put this. Let me minimize this. We're gonna put we'll put the Max. We'll put it B tier. We might move it. We might move it later, but it's definitely B tier, because part of the same issues is just how the fidelity is extremely low. It does hold more cargo, so there is a little bit bonus there. There's a little cargo, but it suffers from the same issues. It's got good armament. It definitely falls within that multi-role. It's easier to get vehicles in and out of, where the Misc is, it's really tight on vehicles and doesn't hold a lot of the vehicles. So we might move both these down a notch, but we're gonna give the Misc a B. I'm sorry, the Max a B, the Misc a C. Um, you know what? I'm gonna have to, for now. You know what we might do here? Let's get this in here. Let's talk about. So many people love the Mercury Star Runner, and it's a shame that the data running, although the cargo bay is fantastic, and it does have, if flight characteristics are really good, You know, maybe we'll do this. We'll do this. We'll come back to this. We'll do this because flight characteristics are good. It's a big ship though. It doesn't need to be. They have all those secret compartments in the bottom that artificially increase its size, and it's kind of squishy and weak with doopy armament. But for a cargo, you know, capacity, the 113, it's, you know, fidelity. It's like a B plus. We might come back to this. Let's go with the C2. I'm gonna say the C2 is fantastic. Flight characteristics are wonderful. Arguably better than the Mercury Star Runner. The you know I only fidelity is wonderful. You know, cargo capacity is great. My only issue is the elevator. Getting in and out of the elevator is brutal. If that elevator wasn't so painful, I would give it an S tier. But it is like you're trying to get out, you're like open, 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 open. It's brutal. It's brutal. And then we'll do the M2, even though it's the military variant, we'll do the M2 the same way. And I would argue that the M2, you know, with its cargo capacity very comparable to the Caterpillar. I almost, and you know, and what's nice too is that what I've come to realize is the M2 variants comes with much better components than the C2, and so I can make it all the way across the galaxy in 6 minutes in the M2, where the C2 is like 18 minutes, or it's because it's got the civilian grade D. It's brutal. Where this has got the military grade C, and so out of the box with base default components, especially after a wipe, the C2 is much quicker with better components. You just lack. You know what? I think that the M2 is a better cargo hauler due to its component layout. Even though you get more cargo, but let's be honest, like if you're gonna, you know, you may not start after a wipe and have all the money needed to fill up a because it's over 1 million on some of the, like I was hauling that, was it gold or Brill? Was it Brill? I was calling Brill, hauling Brill, and it was like a just over 1 million to do a full load of Brill. I think I'm saying that wrong. And I initially I started doing with the Mercury, and then I realized the module and component layout was far superior on the M2, and I was like, I'm just using the M2. And so it's one of those things where you play and you fall into playability loops, and you just find that it's a far superior experience in that playability loop. So, just so folks, so you have over here on the left are just kind of my criteria list. So I'm using a new, to digress, I'm using a new tier system. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm trying something new. I uploaded all these images. So, but I give the Hercules series, that's definitely A. It's not the best experience. It's close. It's close. What do we got here? We got, okay, yeah, it's the same image. Okay. Okay. Let's do the Cutlass Black. Now, even though the Black's been out for a hot minute, and it only does the 48 SCU, it's got the 2 side doors, and it has a high level of fidelity. And it also hauls most of the vehicles. And when you're doing the new salvage missions, you can open up the side doors and you can load cargo in from the side and the back, which adds another level of utilitarian kind of versatility. It's just there's a lot of things working for it, and although you don't get the cargo capacity, you get a lot more, plus a high level of fidelity. I'm going to say that it's a solid B, right? It's a solid B. Bear with me on my resizing of this. Solid B. Definitely a better experience than the Misc series of ships. Definitely a better experience. Okay. Okay, so what do we have here? The whole A. You know, I have come full circle on this, and at first I thought that this was dumb. I was like, oh, it's, you know, and I generally out of the box don't like the Misc series of ships, but I'm realizing because of the new playability loops, this has a sweet spot because when you unload a whole bunch of salvage and you're able just to snap them to the side of the ship versus trying to get them inside of a freelancer, like these are a pain in the ass to load. This this is much easier, and I, you know, that's the thing that I'm having a hard time with when they come out with the whole E that's supposed to hold like 40,000 SCU or that, you know, like I think the B is supposed to be like 348. When you start manually transferring all this SCU over, it it like I did a Caterpillar. There was a wrecked Caterpillar site, and I picked up 148 boxes. There's a video of it, and it took me over an hour and a half to load 148 boxes of SCU, and that was in a Caterpillar. It was brutal, brutal. So there are some gameplay mechanics that are going to be challenging to work out, because it's one scenario when you're buying at a kiosk and you're loading it up and you're dropping it off. It's another scenario when you're unloading a vulture and then you're loading it on to another ship for delivery or sale. So both of those considerations play into, because if I was just saying buy from kiosk and sell from kiosk, I would move these to S tier. But after considering the kind of the how the game is changing and the multi-role dynamic and general functionality, it's kind of changing my view of the cargo. And plus, since this is the newest cargo ship, it's got the highest level of fidelity. Like everything works, you know, all the resolution and like the quantum drive when it pops up, it's not out of res. Everything is very, it's like gold standard level. It's not. I don't think it's 100% gold standard, but it's definitely like silver plus. It's got the highest level of fidelity out of all the ships so far, and it's a, you know, it's a good experience. And for moving cargo to point A to point B, it's the easiest to get cargo on there. So let's move on. Okay. Of course, this is my own opinion, and if you've purchased any of these ships, it's not, you know, it's not a dig on you to say that your ship's crappy or your ship's bad, you know, because we go through sometimes we go full circle, because I'll give the Taurus for example, and although the Taurus and Andromeda are very similar, I'm gonna this might be a shocker, and I've bought this and sold this and gone back to it I think 3 times, and I'm gonna say this is S tier. And I know this is going to be a shocker, but the reason the flight characteristics, fantastic. And I didn't realize that these Constellation ships have VTOL. I did not realize they had VTOL until they introduced the hotkey for VTOL. And then when you kick the VTOL on, all of a sudden it's snappy. You're like, oh shit, I did not realize this was already baked in. So flight characteristics, fantastic. Fidelity is not 100%. You know, the fidelity is a little lacking. You know, like I noticed they don't have buttons on the doors. They're just proximity. You walk up to the door, it opens up. There's no button on it. There's no like area button to get into the door from the cockpit. You know, and the MFDs flicker and they cut out for some reason. Like the center 3 MFDs are in halftime, they're not working. But outside of that, the missile rack is fantastic, armament is fantastic, and the Taurus version has a bigger ramp with a 174, is it 172? 174 SCU. So capacity, very good on the profit. So I'm kind of like washing it out, because although this has less cargo and higher fidelity, this has better cargo but less fidelity. But when you know with that ramp that drops down, super easy to load from the front and back. So, I'm giving it an S tier. I'm giving the Andromeda. It has smaller capacity, and it does have good armament. And just because it has the cargo capacity so much less, and it has the lacking in the fidelity, I'm gonna go with 198. I'm gonna bump this down to B tier. For the cargo running, I'm going to bump this down. It's still a fantastic experience, VTOL, maneuverability, but it's in that same family, fidelity level, ballpark. I would say actually I'd give it this. I'd give it this. I'd say it's more like that, right? It's in that family. But the Taurus becomes very rapidly its own thing. When you compare those two platforms that drop down, and plus when the tractor beam gameplay, and I hate projecting forward about features that exist that aren't in the game yet, because it could be another 10 years, so I don't like to speak about feature sets that don't exist. But one of the arguments is that that bottom turret is a tractor beam, and the ability to load cargo in from that with that bottom tractor beam, that just even solidifies it being an S tier. So now we're gonna miss. Now the only thing I think I've missed out of here is the Caterpillar, and the Caterpillar is it's been in for a long time. It's been in for a long time, and there is such a cult following with the Caterpillar, and I've owned 2 of them and melted them and then rebought it, and it's kind of a love-hate thing. It's got some major issues, and if you own one, there's no dig on you buying the Caterpillar. It's not a bad choice. It was kind of the first big, large capacity ship, but some of my major issues with it is the feature set. There's so many features missing out of it. No tractor beam. This modularity thing that they've been talking about for 10 years has never transpired. This command module that's supposed to detach, it's not a detached thing. The bottom level of it is not very accessible. It's got those 2 side thrusters that's supposed to be VTOL'd. You can tell that there's a pivot there, but they're so big they don't actually work, and you can't, the door's open, and it's a really cool design, and people have kind of figured out a new use purpose for it because of the new Misc ship that has come out. But it's so jank. And its flight mechanics, like you have to hit the boost to get it to take off when you're taking off. Man, I really want to put it D tier, but I would say it is a better experience than the Max. It is a better experience than the Max. So this is if I'm missing anything, I might have overlooked something. And there are other ships, like the Valkyrie. I forgot to get the image of the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie would be a D tier. It only holds 30 SCU. It's still got those area doors and panels that open up. You don't click on a button. I wish they would update that. They did it with the Pisces. The Pisces used to have the area where you just mouse over the back door and it would open, and then they added the button in this second and last update. And so when they brought out the rescue version of it, they went back and updated the Explorer. So the Pisces got that update, and they need to do that with the rest of these getaway, because a lot of times you're clicking and the door is not opening, but if you have a button, it's a lot more kinetic, it's a lot more responsive. But that's my cargo list. Unfortunately the cargo is not in a good place right now with all the 30Ks. I've lost probably close to 2 million due to 30Ks on cargo running, and there's the other issue is the commodities are not really dynamic, and you'll go to a place to buy something and they'll have like 10. But and like during Invictus, they gave everybody free Hercules ships to rent for 20 or 48 hours, but they didn't increase the cargo in the game. They didn't increase the cargo. Like the volume that all the kiosks across the Constellation stayed the same, so it didn't plan very well, and it nuked the economy. So as a gameplay loop in general, cargo is not in a good place for cargo running. It's not in a good place. But for using cargo to offload your vulture is in a good place. To offload that if you have a buddy and you're moving all that stuff over, and then you go store your cargo ship at another place, and then do another load and then offload it. So that's in a good place. The snapping of the crates is in a good place. But the whole logistics things is rough. Anyways, folks, I hope you like this. I didn't want to make it too long. I'm trying to streamline it. I also used a new tier system website. So, but these are my opinion. And if you bought some of these other ships, doesn't mean it's a bad ship. I've owned them all. I've close to 6,000 hours of gameplay, and you kind of fall into a loop. And it's easier to make more money with the Hercules just because of its sheer volume. But I find that I'm in these most of the time. I find that I'm in the Taurus 80% of the time. It's just what I fall into. It's like, oh, I'll do that one. Oh, I'll do that one, right? And so it's easy to get in and out of. I find it difficult to get in and out of some of these other ships for whatever reason. It's like waiting for doors to open, waiting for elevators to come down. I was like, come on, man. Well, anyways, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Feedback is always welcome. I am okay with criticism. Thanks for watching.